The answer to 1984 is 1776.
We measure how much national television covers what we're doing and how many newspapers report on what we're doing as another indicator of how much success we're having. And every week, the Drudge Report links to us, or the New York Times or Newsweek blurbs what we're doing and basically attacks us in those cases. George Soros-owned media outlets like Media Matters attack us almost on a daily basis. And it shows the big effect we're having. A year ago, it came out in major newspapers that I am on the top 30 White House enemies list as number 29. And that's because I oppose the policies of this treasonous administration. And I've made a 15-minute video that's up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com where I lay out the evidence of treason. When they put economic policies in place to ship our jobs to China and to fund China building 3 to 5 coal plants a week, but we can't have 3 new ones a year, attacking our very energy infrastructure is treason. And when only allowing insiders who finance presidential runs of people like Obama to operate power plants in the country, that's another form of mafia-style tyranny. But Thursday, Paul Watson and I wrote an article, Obama Blocking of New Power Plants Triggers Nationwide Blackouts. And Obama triggers blackouts became the #1 Google search term on Thursday into Friday. Fox News picked it up. The Drudge Report picked it up. Rush Limbaugh covered the story. And then on Friday, Media Matters, the George Soros-funded group, ran the headline, Fox turns to 9/11 truther and conspiracy theorist Alex Jones for content. And, of course, Soros basically is one of the biggest backers of Obama, and many of his minions actually are in cabinet positions in the White House. What I didn't notice until I was alerted to it yesterday afternoon is that on the front page of whitehouse.gov, and it's still on the front page, Saturday it was still at the top. It's moved to the bottom left-hand corner of whitehouse.gov. There it is. White House Communications Director press release. You can't believe everything you read by Dan Pfeiffer, the White House Communications Director. And they go on to say you can't believe everything you read. Really, Obama said he wouldn't have signing statements and has signed more per capita than Bush or Clinton or any other president. Obama promised to not have banker fat cats in his administration. He's got the biggest group of banker fat cats of anybody we've ever seen. He promised to balance the budget. He spent more than all presidents before him combined. I mean, everybody knows Obama's been a big liar. A big liar across the board. To try to chronicle those makes my head spin. But you can think of a lot of the lies yourself. But you can't believe everything you read. What a headline they've got here. And I'm going to go ahead and read over some of this article, and then I'm going to get into our rebuttal that Paul Watson and I put together last night. White House attacks PrisonPlanet.com report on blackouts. And this thing is so well-sourced, so documented, and doubly proves everything that we documented in our original article from Thursday. Obama's blocking of new power plants triggers nationwide blackouts. Furious hospitals hit with outages while post-industrial collapse of America accelerates. But going over this White House front page press release. And is the media, the lapdog media, going to challenge Obama on this? Because this breaks every rule of journalism right here. As valuable as the internet can be in helping to spread information, most people know that you can't believe everything you read. Yeah, especially, how do you know when a politician's lying? Their lips are moving. This is the same White House with their regulations czar, Cass Sunstein, on record, putting out policy papers saying arrest people that question man-made global warming. He's on record. So they want the kill switch. Oh, they really know how valuable the internet is. Every line is spin and deception. So it'll take a while to go over this press release. I'm sorry, every line is a fraud. As valuable as the internet can be in helping spread information, most people know that if you can't believe everything you read, and they should check the source before relying and relaying every alarming story they read. But here's the problem. They then don't give a link to the source they're trying to discredit. They don't even tell you who it is, Alex Jones, via Matt Drudge, Rush Limbaugh, Fox News. So right there they say, we love the internet, when they're actually trying to take over the free web on record. Then they go on and say you should check the source, but they don't give you the source. I'm about to get to that. See, every line is a deception. I mean, did the devil write this? Literally, everything in here is a lie. All 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 paragraphs. Every line is a lie. Some lines of this have multiple lies per line. How do you counter something like this? Well, we have in the article by Alex Jones and Paul Joseph Watson, but I'm going to get to that in a moment. Continuing, you can't believe everything you read. I think that's the only true statement in here. As valuable as the internet can be in helping spread information, most people know that you can't believe everything you read. And they should check the source before relying and relaying every alarming story they read. One such story is going around the internet over the past 2 days, claiming that the Obama administration is somehow responsible for the rolling blackouts in Texas. By the way, they're all over the country, from California to Arizona. Our article says that, by the way. So that's another lie. It's not just Texas. That have caused terrible hardship for so many Texans. I guess that's a little vein of truth there, too, that has caused hardship. The source is questionable, and the story is unquestionably false. But they do not give a source. They do not give a source. They do not. They just got done in the line before saying you've got to check the sources. In our article, every line has links to mainstream and government admissions. But with them, they don't give any links but one to the Houston Chronicle. According to the Electric Reliability Council of Texas, these blackouts were actually the result of extreme cold temperatures and high winds, which led to a variety of mechanical failures at more than 50 plants around the state. Let's stop right there. That's another giant, huge, stinking straw man. What's a straw man? They don't attack what we really said. They build a lie. Our article obviously says the cold weather taxed the power plants, and because we haven't built enough of them, we've had outages. And then we link to all the white paper and think tank reports stating that we're in a power deficit compared to China and others for our basic industrial needs, not to mention just general. So see the bait and switch there. Talking to you like your 5-year-old children, saying, oh, this unreputable source that we're not going to let you link to so you can make up your own mind and actually read, this unreputable source, just trust us, we're not going to put a link to them or even say who they are. They're saying that, and I noticed that was their counter in Media Matters, George Soros, their counter in a whole bunch of other newspapers that did attack us by name as the surrogates of the White House. They said Jones and the other lunatic writers said Obama flipped a switch and turned the power off when everyone knows it was cold weather. No, we said cold weather hit, and because we haven't built enough power plants, that there were huge power outages all over the country. Then they only say we said it was in Texas. I'm going to continue here. But see, this is the type of deception, the trained liars that we're dealing with. We're going to go over these lies one by one. Then I'm getting into the Super Bowl where they're sticking their hands down people's pants. White House attacks PrisonPlanet.com, reports on blackouts. Again, White House attacks PrisonPlanet.com, report on blackouts. So did Media Matters, George Soros outfit. And they just tell lie after lie in this piece we're going through here. Anytime communities experience major outages, it is a cause for concern, and major utilities and regulators are investigating steps that can be taken to decrease any weather-related vulnerability of power generating plants in the state. Unlike their northern counterparts, which experience extreme cold every winter and often are not designed to withstand such rare weather conditions. So they go on to claim that we're having power outages, by the way, from, again, New York to California, because they don't experience regular cold. And they're implying that we're only talking about Texas here, when it's Texas that's supplying much of Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, and surrounding states' power, biggest power producer in the country. I mean, we have the clips of Obama saying that he wants to bankrupt coal plants, that you can build one, but they're going to put carbon taxes on you so high that it's going to bankrupt you. In fact, do we have that clip? Let's go ahead and roll that clip now. It's only 13 seconds for folks. Here it is.
Use coal without emitting greenhouse gases and carbon. And how can we sequester that carbon and capture it? If we can't, then we're going to still be working on alternatives. But
alternatives including coal?
Let me sort of describe my overall policy. I mean, what I've said is that we would put a cap and trade system in place that is as aggressive, if not more aggressive, than anybody else is out there. I was the first to call for 100% auction on the cap and trade system, which means that every unit of carbon or greenhouse gas that was emitted would be charged to the polluter. That will create a market in which whatever technologies are out there that are being presented, whatever power plants that are being built, that they would have to meet the rigors of that market and the ratcheted down caps that are imposed every year. So if somebody wants to build a coal-powered plant, they can. It's just that it will bankrupt them because they're going to be charged a huge sum for all that greenhouse gas that's being emitted. That will also generate billions of dollars that we can invest in solar, wind, biodiesel.
By the way, solar supplies 1% of the United States, and I looked up the Fed's admitted numbers. It cost 10 times as much money for every megawatt of wind power that you get compared to coal. Then they go on and lie and say that coal is incredibly toxic. I'm going to play a 3-minute news piece coming up the next segment where they go from the beginning to the end of the steps with coal and document that all that comes out of the smokestack is water vapor and carbon dioxide. Nothing else comes out. That's why they're saying they want to tax carbon now. With regulations that were reasonable in the last 50 years, they've made our coal almost completely perfectly clean. And even if we're going to move to something new, you're not going to do this overnight. And so the White House, and not just Obama, but Biden and others, are on record saying that they want to bankrupt coal. Now, continuing with the White House trying to counter our report, some are trying to blame these blackouts, which the industry has already provided explanation for. Well, of course the industry said it was the cold weather that caused them not to be able to meet demand. That's the point, is that we haven't built enough plants, and our prices have gone way up because they haven't built more plants. And only selective insiders like GE get to build new plants, so they get all the profits. See, it's all deception. Some are trying to blame these blackouts, which the industry has already provided explanation for, on the Clean Air Act standards under consideration to curb dangerous pollution. That's the new ratcheting up of the Kyoto Protocol that Congress hasn't passed. So here's another deception. They go on to say, well, we haven't implemented this yet. Yeah, because Texas is suing you. You tried to implement it last year. It's set to go into implementation next month, and the feds have taken over the Texas power plants that supply the surrounding 5 states with much of their power. So again, it's another deception here, claiming that they haven't put any of these new restrictions in yet. Obama took the already regulations that were in place and used those, and we have an article countering this, and the article that we originally wrote shows all the examples. Headline, Obama EPA shuts down South Dakota plant. Obama EPA shuts down Georgia plant. Obama EPA shuts down Texas plant. Obama EPA denies permit to new plant. Obama EPA moves to block new Corpus Christi power plant. On and on and on. Our article is big and beefy and thick and long and filled with links. There's nothing in Obama's article. They're just shoveling you lies. Some are trying to blame these blackouts, which the industry has already provided explanation for, on the Clean Air Act standards under consideration to curb dangerous pollution, including carbon pollution. Oh, to curb dangerous pollution, including carbon pollution, which is carbon dioxide that humans exhale that plants breathe, that plants live off of. While these claims gain traction on the internet, there is a major problem with this theory. No power plant in Texas has yet been required to do anything to control carbon pollution. They're calling carbon dioxide. See, because nothing's coming out of them now but water vapor and carbon dioxide. And they know that the general public knows that water isn't bad, so they pick the other thing coming out of them and call it carbon pollution. Yeah, carbon dioxide. In December, the EPA announced that it intended to update important Clean Air Act standards for decades, have decreased harmful pollution, and protected public health. In the coming months, the EPA will work closely with key stakeholders, including industry, that means GE, who's exempt, to develop a common sense standards for currently unchecked, dangerous carbon pollution. And then when you read closer what they're talking about, that's carbon dioxide. But the average person reading this goes, oh, well, they're trying to save me from pollution. Any standard which will leverage existing technologies and only apply to the largest polluters will not be proposed until later this year, allowing an extensive public comment period, and following that additional input, no final rule is scheduled to be in place until late 2012. They're already implementing all this stuff for 2 years. We've got countless links to mainstream news where they've been shutting them down. More lies. Despite these modest steps, you just heard Obama say he wants the most draconian of any country, a 50% cut. You just heard the president say he wants to bankrupt them. You just heard them say he wants the most draconian. I got clips of Biden, by the way, in our article saying you're not going to be allowed to have a plan. But here they are lying, saying we just want some modest, reasonable. Come on. Despite these modest steps, many continue to mischaracterize this process, making unsubstantiated claims about the impact that this will have on everything from industry to energy prices. Energy prices are way up. No one denies that. The most recent effort simply underscores a willingness to ignore the facts, they presented none here, to further an agenda that seeks to stop the EPA from sensible updates to the Clean Air Act. No, it's the Kyoto Protocol Treaty that you couldn't get rammed through, that you couldn't get passed, that the Congress wouldn't pass, and so now they're having congressional hearings about it. The state of Texas and others are suing you, just like the Health Care Act is being ruled unconstitutional. And Obama's giving hundreds of waivers to his friends like McDonald's, and then Whataburger or Burger King don't get waivers, and their prices have to go up, and they got to buy insurance, but McDonald's doesn't. It's the same thing here. In fact, if we can pull up that headline, it was in the AP, it was also in the Washington Examiner. Obama gives GE exemption on new clean air rules, but no one else gets these exemptions. This is what we're talking about. This is unfair, this is wrong, and it's for insiders to make giant profits. The former head of GE that lobbied for all of this just 2 years ago is now the head of the President's Economic Council. Talk about conflict of interest. And by the way, it's not just us saying this. After we reported on it and they linked to our story, the Heritage Foundation concurred. There's the headline. Obama issues global warming rules in January, exempts GE power plants in February. Stay with us. We're going to break it all down. The bottom line here is, look at how weak the White House is. Look at how scared they are of PrisonPlanet.com. Yes, PrisonPlanet.com, according to Alexa ratings and Google Analytics, does get more visitors than MSNBC.com. They're afraid of the alternative media. They're afraid of talk radio, which is why they're openly moving to censor and attack free speech and put the fairness doctrine back into place. Read our article that got the White House so upset and then compare it to the White House's response, which we just chronicled the lies in. White House attacks PrisonPlanet.com report on blackouts. Our original article picked up by Fox News. They just took our story and directly linked to it. Obama's blocking of new power plants triggers nationwide blackouts. But they put a question mark on the end of it. And again, our article was about nationwide. You saw it last week, from California to New York, power outages all over the place. Because they've cut back so much. Now, for the insiders that are still allowed to operate, they make bigger profits, and that's great. But we become like Venezuela. You know why Ceausescu fell in '89? Because he controlled the only power plants in the country and used it to become a billionaire and build big palaces. And the Romanians, it's on even CIA fact book, they admit, rebelled mainly over the rolling blackouts that they were so sick of. So another sign of authoritarianism. Now, the biggest lie in their report isn't that they didn't link to us so people could see what we actually said, or that we said it was just a Texas issue, or to imply that we didn't say it was originally triggered by the cold weather, but that again, we couldn't respond because of lack of power plants. It's where they keep saying horrible carbon pollution. Now, I have family who have been engineers, one of them's retired now, and worked in both oil refineries and coal power plants. And I've seen them over the years get so angry when they hear reports about dirty coal. There are federally mandated sensors in the stacks. If anything but carbon dioxide and water comes out, alarms go off. They have to shunt all the smoke into a holding area and basically turn the power plant off. They're not allowed to release any. The federal government has Cessnas that fly above every major plant every day with their own sensors. And so I thought I would play for you, just to illustrate this lie, a piece that was done with the officials of the Chesterfield plant outside Richmond, Virginia. Now, this is the modern type of plant that by federal mandate, and that's reasonable, has been in place for at least the last 30 years. There are no coal-powered plants out there that are not scrubbing the exhaust, okay? So I'm going to play this clip right now. It goes through a giant catalytic converter. Then it goes through all these other scrubbers, and nothing comes out but carbon dioxide and water vapor. So the feds are saying, we're going to say that carbon dioxide's bad and restrict it. So the power companies say, okay, we'll start shunting it into old wellheads. We'll put it underground. They say, no, you're not allowed to do that. And so your prices are going up. And now it's going to get worse. Obama's other big lie is claiming that they haven't put anything new in place in the last 2 years and that nothing's changed. That's another lie. We have countless links in our article responding, and our original article, to mainstream news headline, Obama's EPA shuts down this power plant, that power plant. 13 power plants shut down in Pennsylvania. 7 shut down in Texas. You know, I mean, it goes on and on. But they're counting on you being ignorant. But it shows the power of the alternative media. And it shows that the crooks in Washington are just men like us. They're not invincible, and responding to them with the truth is having an effect to the point of where the WhiteHouse.gov, on its front page in the last 2 days, has been responding to the story we put out that was then picked up by newspapers nationwide, and major think tanks like Heritage Foundation and others concurred with our analysis. We gave facts, they gave lies. Now, here's a short clip breaking down the process. The video's posted in our article, responding to it. If you're a radio listener and want to see the video, not just hear the audio, it's posted in the article. White House attacks PrisonPlanet.com, reports on blackouts at PrisonPlanet.com and Infowars.com. Here's that clip.
Now, this plant burns about a train load of coal per day, which is about 100 train cars. Each train car holds about 100 tons. It's about 10,000 tons of coal per day.
This is the whole process from start to finish.
Chesterfield Power Station consists of 4 coal units and 2 gas-fired units. The coal units operate very simply. We take coal, comes in coal cars each day, and we crush it up, run it on conveyor belts into the plant.
And most of it's domestic.
And then it goes to another stage where it's crushed into very fine powder like talcum powder.
This is energy
independence. At that point,
independence.
it's blown by large fans into the furnace where it combusts and makes heat. That heat energy is transferred through tubes into water on the other side and boils that water into steam. That steam then runs large steam turbines that run a shaft that turns a generator that then makes electricity that's delivered to our customers. Right. That's the actual coal dust flowing into the flame. This looks like a little dark shade.
But if anybody's allowed to set these up,
our Chesterfield Power Station, as we have at most of our power stations,
they
we
won't
have
make
devices
profit
within the furnace that help reduce our nitrous oxide production. Nitrous oxide is a component that ultimately can become smog in the atmosphere. So we like to reduce that right at the furnace. We use low nitrous oxide burners and overfired air to reduce it in the boiler itself. Once the gas comes out of the boiler, on 3 of the 4 units here, we have devices called selective catalytic reduction devices. And that's like the catalytic converter on your car. It takes the nitrous oxide that's produced in the furnace when you combust air and coal and separates out the nitrous oxide back into nitrogen and oxygen, which is available in the air as we breathe it today. So it basically puts it back the way it was before it went through the combustion process. Once the flue gas comes out of that, it goes through a device to remove particulate matter, either electrostatic precipitator, which is like electrostatic air cleaner in your home.
That's a dry scrubber.
Or it goes through a bag house. A bag house is very similar to the bag you might have on your vacuum cleaner at home. The air goes through, any particulate matter gets stuck in the bag. And we periodically empty those bags out and clean them and replace them. The last step is a scrubber or a flue gas desulfurization device. That removes the sulfur dioxide and the mercury from the flue gas. And the way they work is quite simple. We take limestone and grind it up into a fine powder, mix it with water to create a slurry, and then spray that into the flue stream. The flue gas goes through this limestone mixture and chemically creates a chemical which becomes gypsum. It's the same stuff that's used in wallboards. In fact, this facility will supply gypsum to a local wallboard manufacturer to recycle the material into wallboard for people to use in their homes. And once you do that, the mercury and the sulfur dioxide comes out of the flue gas. What you see go up the stack has moisture in it and no more sulfur dioxide or mercury.
All right. None. There are sensors on it. They're not allowed to release any. It's water vapor and carbon dioxide that plants breathe. And I've seen major university studies where just the surrounding plants and trees and grass around a coal-powered plant grow faster or healthier. You can just pull up studies, show increased carbon dioxide makes plants healthier and grow faster, increased crop yields. In fact, the Earth has had, well, just in the last 100,000 years, 14 times higher carbon dioxide in the atmosphere than it has now. We're in a carbon-starved position. The life cycle on our planet is carbon dioxide, oxygen, water, and sunlight. You've got to have those 4 basic ingredients. And so the White House keeps talking about carbon pollution, but to sum it all up, if you have a true free market and cities, counties, private interest build power plants, that's competitive supply and demand. It drives down prices massively. Massively drives down prices. But if you're insiders and you can get globalists in place all over the world, not just here, they can use governments to shut down all the smaller plants or plants that aren't insiders. They won't get the waivers. They can't release carbon dioxide, but then General Electric and a handful of others, they do. Meanwhile, a bunch of plants have been built by globalists on the U.S.-Mexico border, on the Mexican side, where there is no controls. They actually put the mercury right into the air. Then that blows across, but they can do it cheaper and then supply the U.S. and make even bigger profits. So they use regulations to shut down their competition.